Hey friends, and welcome to a brand new video. Today we are taking a look at the Spellbinders Glimmer Hot Foil machine. I am so excited about this. I was influenced by lots of the amazing projects I've been seeing on social media. So today we are taking my first look at the foiling machine and doing our first steps of foiling. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Alright, so let's unbox this. You guys are taking the first look along with me. So we've got some protection here, and we will get that out of the way. Alright, so I've taken the plastic off of everything and plugged this in because I know we need to get it warm. It comes with this platform, and we're going to slide it right into there. And then I think we press this button. Should I maybe read the directions? I think it's heating up, because it's going to turn green in a sec. Please read all of the safety precautions before using. All right, already didn't follow that. All right, so before we get into this, there is this machine, which is for that die cutting machine back there. It's the Platinum by Spellbinders. But if you guys have a Gemini die cutting machine, there's a machine made specifically for that so that it fits through your die cutter. So I'll link down to both so that if you have the Spellbinders machine, you can get this one. And if you have the Gemini, you can get the Gemini machine and get the same foiling result. All right, so inside of here, we got a couple of hot plates, which I'll use in my first example here. And then we got a plate. I believe this is a cooling mat to place your dies when they come off of the hot surface here, and then here is the plate that you use to go against the heat. It also has this kind of tweezer looking thing, and I believe it's magnetic, so it'll pick up your dies off of here to remove them and hold things so you don't have to touch the hot surface. And it comes with a little bit of foil. This foil is totally different than your laminator foil, so keep it separately, keep it in a different area or package, or label it separately so you don't use and interchange them because they're not gonna work on the different mediums. All right, so while this is heating up, let's do our first hot foiling and get it prepared. So I'm gonna be using the hot foil plate that came along with it. This is the frame. And okay, so let's go in first with the silver foil that we were given. Bear with me, this might be a mess the first time, but we'll get it by the end of this video for sure. So I'm gonna go in with these Tim Holtz shears. Cutting foil is kind of difficult, but I find that having a big scissors like this makes it quite a bit easier. So I'll set that foil off to the side. And then I was also told that you don't want tons of extra foil on the sides. So to prevent the over foiling, you just kind of want to get rid of any of the sharp edges that are going to be kind of close by. So I'll just go through and kind of lessen those edges a little bit by making them more rounded. And this is a mess trying to cut foil, but that's how it always is. Now I need to know which way the foil goes, and believe it or not, I already threw the instruction manual on the floor. Let's see. So the foil goes towards. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of my mint tape because I want things to be kind of held down a little bit with this frame. So I'm going to place this hot foil plate down facing the cardstock. We can kind of hinge it upwards, and the pretty side goes towards the pretty side of the hot foil plate. Because that makes sense, because it's going to lay down and kind of press into the paper like that. I don't know if this tape is gonna affect anything, but I want it to kind of be held in place like that, so I'm not gonna mind it too much. All right, so I'm going to go in and place this down onto my surface there. You want the hot foil plate facing upwards so that it's touching that hot surface. Then I'll go in with my thin shim, place that over top, and we'll bring in the spacer pad as well. And then I think we click it again, and this timer is gonna kind of click like that. And I think once it goes off, then we're ready to run it through our die cutting machine. Okay, it turned fully green. So I'm just going to pull this right out of there and bring this to our Platinum. This is a whole new edition of Simon Awkwardly die cutting. So I've been told you have to run it through pretty slow to let everything transfer. It made kind of a weird sound, like it was almost like sizzling. All right, that moved. Hopefully that doesn't affect anything. Ooh, that is hot right away. Okay, now I know why they gave me the mat. All right, so I'm just gonna grab these like tweezers, lift it off like that. They're pretty strong, like wow. We can peel off our foil. All right, so once I removed it, there is quite a bit of extra overfoiling all around the edges. There's a little bit over here, but that's because I added too much foil. but I'm not sure about all this. So to get rid of that, I've heard you can go in with like a mono sand eraser and go through and erase those foiled areas, and it should kind of get rid of any of the excess. I mean, actually it is pretty easy to just go all the way around, and if you want to, you can just literally go over the foiling that's even been pressed in with your mono sand eraser, because that's pretty much gonna stay put where it is because it's been pressed in with such a hot heat. And this mono sand eraser is pretty genius at removing any of the foiling that's not supposed to be there around the edges. All right, so after mono sand erasing that design, here is what it looks like. I love this foiling, how it presses it into the cardstock like that. It definitely has a whole different unique effect. It's almost like a letterpress look. All right, now I also bought a couple of other colors of foil. I'm gonna use the gold on this next design as I test it out. And I also have this really awesome holiday florals background. I loved this one when I saw it. I'm gonna go in with my scissors here and just pretty loosely cut around the design, just holding it up to it, just to make sure that there's enough foil. And then I'll go in and just kind of clean up any of the sharp edges and round it out a little bit on all of the sides. Again, with this hot foil plate, I'm gonna take it onto my stark white cardstock here, and I'm just going to place a piece of mint tape down. I have it overhanging the edge just a little bit, and I'll wrap this around the edge to create almost like a hinge that we can lift up, and then we can put the pretty side, once again, towards the hot foil plate design. You want it towards the design so both pretty sides are touching. And then we're going to kind of tuck this underneath. And the reason I had it overhanging a little bit is so that I can tuck it underneath and make sure that all the design is gonna get foiled. Perfect. So I like using that tape to make sure that it's gonna be in the exact place that I want it. And then we'll go in here, let it drop onto my project. Then we will set the timer again and place my plates on top. And now it's the waiting game again. And then I will, once again, slowly run this right through my die cutting machine. So I'm gonna go in here, once again, grab my tweezers. That really helps to hold things nicely. I'll place it down onto my card. And then again, I'm going to use the tweezers to just pull that die off and set it off to the side. Once the foiling is done, we can peel it off. And this one definitely looks better. There's a lot less of the overfoiling, just a little bit right here and a little bit over here. I definitely had too much foil in this area because there was not even any design there. But overall, there's not a bunch of little foiling around the edges, so this one is definitely better. All right, now that I see this, Spellbinders was so thoughtful when they designed this because you can place it on the other side and do the exact same thing to create a whole wrapped around design, which I think is super cool, and I'm gonna try it. So before we do anything else, we're gonna go in with our mono sand eraser and erase off any of that gold foil. And now that I found out you don't really have to be super careful when you do it, it's a lot easier to do. Line that up perfectly. We'll grab a little bit of mint tape again. You'll leave a little bit kind of hanging off there. And once you have your place, wrap it around the cardstock. All right, so I noticed if you press against the foil, it's actually gonna remove or make a little mark in the design. So I'm just going in with a stylus here and kind of running around the design there. That way it's easy to cut it out because I have kind of a marker for it and I won't make any mistakes. All right, so that just allowed me to get really close to the edge, and I still left a little bit of a border, but then I can tuck the foil, and again, we'll tuck it under. That's why I leave a little bit of an overhang so that it can hang over there. So we'll bring in our foiling machine. I always like to just kind of start with the die and then place it down like that, because you don't want to touch the surface. Pretty hot. Guys, I'm really confused. This is not even messy in here, and I lost the plates. They can't be that far gone. Oh, okay. I feel like that's like me having my sunglasses on my head, and okay. Well, all right, so I'll place down both of them on top of here and start my timer. All right, the timer's ready. We'll remove it from our machine, and slowly but surely, we will awkwardly run it through. Okay, so I'm going to lift it off. There we have our beautiful foiling. There is just a tiny bit of over foiling here and there, but once again, I can erase that off and it'll be no problem. I like that Spellbinders does that, so you can do just half of it if you want to, but then you can do the whole border, and it also keeps the cost of the plate down, which is really nice as a consumer to have those two options and not have to pay a ton for a whole cover plate. All right, you know what guys, I'm going back on what I said earlier. We're gonna use both of these sentiments. It says Merry Christmas from our home to yours. I'm going to place those right up next to each other like this. I feel like I've graduated to the bigger leagues now. So we shall see if this foils nicely. So I'm just going to place it down right onto there to hold these together and make sure that they're not gonna move. It keeps them nice and straight like we placed it down. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of that same gold foil, but here I'm just using a scrap of it. We will place it down and then we can put it right onto our hot foil machine. Make sure that it stays in place and then place our two plates down and start our timer. Now while this is going, I wanted to let you guys know, I've heard quite a few talks about cardstock when you're using this. I'm using my Simon Hurley Create Stark White cardstock, which is a pretty smooth surface, and it seems to be transferring pretty well. I'll definitely be trying out some other options in future videos for the foiling, but I'm not having a problem with this, which I think is nice. All right, we will lift off our plates, and it is really getting hotter and hotter every time we do this. Okay. It melted the tape a little bit, so maybe you want to use a heat-safe tape, I'm thinking, and the magnetic clasp there to lift it off. And we'll leave those on the mat to kind of cure a little bit. And do what we normally do and take our eraser and erase it off. It's not too big of a deal at all. And then it did it in between the sentiments, which I get because all of these dies have little edges, so sometimes it just catches on the edges. As I hold it closer, I'm seeing that this one actually moved, so I might just use the top of the sentiment and just cut it out around that. I'm seeing that this lifted up a little bit, and I think it got almost like a double foiled effect. So I'll definitely just use the Merry Christmas on this one, but it was a good try to do both. We almost made it work. All right, so I'm gonna be done with this for the day. I'm going to let this cool off after I've turned it off. You wanna keep it away from anything because this top surface has gotten hotter and hotter as we've gone along. So I'm gonna let it cool and then we'll work on finishing off the cards. Now with this one, I've just poked a hole up and into the cardstock, and then I'm going to go in here and just go around and cut all around this image with a little bit of a white border. If you're scared of fussy cutting, by no means does this need to be perfect. I also find that going underneath instead of up above helps to keep the cardstock kind of smooth and not get as many like rips or creases in your cardstock. This makes it really easy to just go underneath and cut it right out. All right, now I'm gonna go in with some blender brushes to blend on some color with ink. I've been told that this works pretty well, but I wanna kind of test it out, see if it dulls the foil at all or kind of how it works with it. I've decided to go in with blending brushes first because I want kind of a softer effect at first as I bring in my color. And I like the really super soft color that the blending brushes can add, and we can start from soft and then work our way up if we want to, which is really just stunning, I think, with this foiling. And when you're doing something like this, no need to worry about like the lines, just kind of keep that color in the general shape of whatever you're coloring in, but like we want to fill in the whole frame. So go outside of the image and get that color all over. I just love these poinsettias, and colored in they're even more beautiful. I saw them online and I was like, this is definitely a hot foil plate that I need to get my hands on. So now once that's kind of done, really nice and light over the whole thing, I'm gonna go in with a detail ink blending tool. These are from Ranger. I think they come in a pack of 5 and they're double-sided. They've got that same kind of blending foam that you are used to. And we'll just go in and add a little bit of shading to these poinsettias here and there all over, and going onto each petal and shading that in. This is where we're able to get into some of that more detail coloring. Of course, you could totally skip this step, but I find that it really brings a little bit more depth and dimension to it and really brings the images to life there. And now as far as I can tell, that foil is still really holding up to all of the ink and it's still super shiny. And even if a little bit of ink does get onto the surface, it's water-based ink, so any ink that's sitting on the surface there is easily able to wipe off and bring that foil shine right back to life. So you can see that little bit that was on there and it brings it right back to full shine. This foil seems to be pretty resilient because it was just so hot when it was pressed in there that it holds up to a lot, which I think is super cool when you're trying to color it in and add different effects to it. All right, now to kind of this evergreen area here, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Tropical Tango and a blending brush and add this color right into there. I think that's gonna create beautiful depth and dimension there, and we'll blend that in a little bit with the red. You don't wanna go too far in because we don't wanna create mud, so I'll kind of just softly bring that color into there. And again, with these blending brushes, we can start off really soft and just kind of fade those colors off a little bit. All right, last but not least, we'll bring in just a little bit of Overzealous, which is kind of a more yellow green, a lot lighter for sure. And I like to, instead of just go fully green across the whole thing, I like that we brought in a little bit of Overzealous on this one and a little bit of Tropical Tango onto the other one. I think it gives a little bit more variety all the way across, which I really enjoy. And then I'm going in with a little detail blender brush from Altenew because it gets even smaller into those details. And we'll go into a little bit of Fake Plant and bring in that color and add a little bit of depth and dimension to each one of these little leaves. And again, you can totally skip this if you want to. It's just an added little detail that brings a little bit more depth to your image. All right, so before I finish this off, I'm just gonna go in with my little mini trimmer here and trim off just a tiny bit from each side. I want there to be a little bit of a border on today's card, so this will help us with that. All right, so I've popped it up on some foam tape here, and that's gonna add quite a bit of dimension, which I really love. I lose things in here way too much. Now where the heck would it be if I was a Stickles? Update, they were literally in a little box labeled Stickles. Here's a really great tip. Take any piece of kind of plastic packaging or acetate and place it over top of your project before you put the stickles onto your project. That way you can see if you like how it looks before you fully commit to putting them down in your project. All right, so then I can use this plastic sheet and kind of hold it over and take it off and see if I like that or not. And I think I do, so I think I'm gonna add them onto my project. All right, so to do this, I'm just gonna go in here, I hold the bottle upright and then kind of squeeze it down to form those little drops that we want on our surface. And I find that holding it upright rather than sideways will give you the most even kind of drop down onto your project. All right, so here is a look at that finished card. I love all of that foiling, like I said, and it's so cool that it is impressed and pretty resilient to lots of things, including the inks and doing watercolor on top of it, which I think is super cool. I love how this turned out with all of those poinsettias and ink blending background, and then adding that little touch of the stickles to finish it off. I hope you enjoyed exploring the Glimmer foil press machine with me today. I sure had a ton of fun learning about it and unboxing it with you guys to do kind of a first impressions. I'll definitely be using this again in future videos because there's lots of amazing new products coming out for it, and I think it is just so much fun to get that beautiful impressed foil look. Leave me a comment down below if you guys have tried this machine or if you're looking forward to trying it. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and click that subscribe button down below to never miss another card making video like this one from me. Alright guys, I'll see you very soon in another video. Have a great day. Bye!